In a world with artificial intelligence, how do we transform education? Thanks for tuning in. I'm Daniel Lopez, and this is the AI Education Conversation, where we explore the opportunities, risks, and impacts of AI across education. If you'd like to join the conversation, check out the AIeducationconversation.com. Let's jump in. What's up, everyone? Hope the start of the second semester is treating you right. For all of my school-based friends out there, I'm sending you good vibes. I know how difficult January can be. You've had a couple of weeks of rest, and then all of a sudden, you're catapulted onto a treadmill that is on 10. Hang in there. Spring break will be here before you know it. I've realized something over the past few weeks. So many folks in education are not using AI tools because they don't have an understanding of the role it can play for them and how to use them. They think that they need technical skills like coding to be able to access them. I have a response to this. And to make sure that our friends who are not currently AI enthusiasts or even AI curious for that matter get a small dose of what we're experiencing when we use AI tools, I'm launching a new series called AI Essentials. A couple of times a month, I will post an additional episode of the education conversation outside of the regular schedule, where I will walk through highly tactical, basic tips to help you learn more about the essentials of AI in a short period of time. So if you're a frequent listener of the show or AI proficient, I got homework for you. Your homework is to share these episodes with at least 2 other friends in your network who have not yet taken time to learn or explore AI tools. We need to help our friends get up to speed, especially given this AI disruption is impacting all of us. So that being said, let's jump into our first AI essentials, prompt engineering. Now, what the heck is prompt engineering? For those of you who have not logged into a tool like ChatGPT or opened up a tool like Bing or Bard before, the AI tools most of us are currently playing around with is nothing but a search bar, like you would find when you're opening your Google browser. Prompt engineering is a fancy industry term that basically means the words you are putting together in this search bar to instruct the AI chatbot to achieve whatever task you're asking it to do. Now, before we talk about what this looks like, I really want to reiterate this for our AI beginner friends listening. You do not need to know coding to get AI tools to do something or to develop prompts. All you need is your words. Additionally, what I have observed is most of my colleagues in my spheres who have been managers, educators, coaches, principals, mentors, team leaders, and parents, you all are already great at prompt engineering once you understand what that is and you've sat with this a little bit. Now, why are these roles so good at prompt engineering? Because so many times in your daily life, you have to be really effective at tailoring explicit instructions to others to execute tasks. Let's think about that parent who might be having a dialogue with their child, and they eventually learn that if their child is requesting ice cream at night and they say they can't have ice cream, they may later catch their child eating a bag of chips. And the child might reply, "You didn't say I couldn't have chips." Think about that new teacher who walks through key points in a lesson and then tells students to break off into pairs to work on a worksheet and eventually finds that students are laughing, they're not writing much down, they're not doing much. They eventually learn to add specifics to what their instructions are, such as what their voice level needs to be and specific timing around the activities that they're being asked to do. All of these situations have prepared you for the AI world we live in today, where we will all have access to AI chatbots who are enthusiastic about supporting us. But just like a new intern, a student, or an assistant, they need explicit instructions and training before they're going to get really good at executing the tasks that meet your standards and needs. So now that we've done some initial table setting, let's play around with some prompting. I'm going to include a video example here, but I'm going to walk through my prompting for folks who just might be listening. Either one is okay. So for this example, I'm going to log into ChatGPT to create a lesson plan. Let's talk about the best way to do this. So if we go back to our earlier example of these chatbots being an enthusiastic intern who might be excited to help and have industry context, but may not have too many current real industry experiences, in those situations, it becomes really important to be very specific about what we want, explicit instructions. If I keep my prompt vague or generalized, it's going to give me back something, just like as an intern would, but it may not meet the standard and the expectation that I had when I was thinking about it in my head. Let's give an example of this first and see what happens when I provide a more general prompt. So I'm going to be attaching a video to this section. Again, if you're following along, you can see how I'm doing this in ChatGPT. If you're not, that's okay. This was the exact prompt if you're not able to watch the video that I'm attaching here. The exact prompt I put was provide me a lesson plan on the Civil War for fifth graders. And you can see I hit enter. ChatGPT is now working and starting to execute on the task that I asked for with that prompt and giving me something back. Now, as you look through some of the video or the pieces here, what you're going to notice is that in this first response, the visual of what it's giving me is it ended up giving me something closer to a scope and sequence, I think, than it did a lesson plan. So the lesson plan it gave me back was actually 5 lessons. It was a lesson for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in each section, they're giving me about a bullet point worth of text around an activity and a discussion that I could have for each of those 5 days. But beyond that, it's not really too specific about what those activities could look like or the questions affiliated with those discussions. As an example, one of the activities, say, you could read letters from soldiers and civilians, watch a short documentary clip. But again, not really saying specifically the documentary clip, what soldiers and civilians. Another activity is group presentations on key figures and their roles. So a little bit general, it could be a lot more specific. Now, given this input, the beauty of how this technology works is at this given point in time, if this was not what I wanted or the expectation I had for what I thought I was going to get back, I can respond and say, no, I wanted something that looks more like this. And you will find yourself doing that multiple times to get the best quality output, especially when some of the tasks you asked it to do are more complicated. But you will also continue to strengthen your ability to learn how these tools work and how to get it to do what you want. The beauty of this tool also is that you can be more explicit on the front end, which is what you all will likely already implicitly do because of the roles that you hold. As I mentioned, we're educators, we're proactive, we know how to do this. And what you're going to notice is that it's going to give you an output closer to what you want already off the bat. You're going to save yourself time. So now, with that context in mind, let's see what happens when I enter a more specific prompt around the same general task. So this is the prompt that I'm going to enter now. You are an expert in curriculum development for K 12 education. I am currently working through a unit with my fifth grade students around the Civil War. I would like for you to design a lesson around the following objective. This is also an objective I pulled directly from the Massachusetts State Department of Education curriculum and objectives for fifth graders around the Civil War. I didn't say that in the prompt, that was just some context I wanted to share with you all. Continuing the prompt, the objective is identify the major military leaders and battles of the war, e.g., Ulysses S. Grant, Robert E. Lee, William Sherman, Stonewall Jackson, battles of the Bull Run, Shiloh, Fredericksburg, Vicksburg, Gettysburg, Appomattox. I would like this lesson to be 15 minutes long and include keywords and sentence stem sections. I would also like the lesson to provide 3 different suggested activities for independent practice, 1 connection to the model world, and 2 questions to check for understanding at the end of the lesson. So now you can see I answered that prompt. I hit enter just as I did with the first one. And then you can see what it started to give me now. Now, if you're looking at this lesson now, you're going to notice that it gave me a lot closer at this point, an output aligned to what I wanted. It gave me most of what I asked for, gave me objectives. It gave me a 50-minute lesson. It was aligned to the identification task that I was asking. It gave me keywords. It gave me sentence stems. It gave me 3 different activities for the independent practice. It did give me a connection to the real world as well, and it gave me some checks for understanding, all of which I asked for. So 85% of what I asked for it just gave here. Now, at this particular point, is this lesson perfect? I personally would argue no. As if I was going through this lesson individually with my own time and iterating on it, some of the things I might do next, I might ask it for definitions on those keywords. It gave me a bunch of keywords, but it didn't give me the definitions. I would actually ask for the check for understanding questions to be a little bit different, just because the ones that it gave weren't my favorite. I don't think they line up as well as they could right now to the objective to the objective of the lesson. So I would work on making those sharper. I think I would also ask ChatGPT to generate images of the leaders. It might be cool to have some AI generated images to review for all of the key battles and the key leaders that I mentioned. And then I would probably reiterate and ask for a very specific real world connection, because right now the real world connection that it gave, I didn't think it was too great. I think we can get a lot sharper there. So there's definitely still some work to do. This ain't perfect. But in my experience, if I were writing the same lesson from scratch, as I did so many times when I was an eighth grade ELA teacher, it would probably take me anywhere from 60 to 120 minutes, depending on the complexity of this lesson. To craft this lesson, it would probably be closer to like 60 to 90 minutes. But I was able to craft a prompt, that exact prompt that I entered here, in less than 60 seconds. And again, it gave me about 70% of what I was looking for. With some additional prompting and back and forth, I think I could likely get this to about 90%. And then individually, I might do a couple of small things on my end to just get us to that full 100%. I might print a handout. I might do some formatting of this lesson plan in a Word document or something like that. So there you have it. As you start your prompting journey with AI tools like ChatGPT, let me leave 3 other quick tips to help you just set the stage here as you walk away today. I find that the context plus instruction structure works best for prompting for 90% of my needs in education. So again, context plus instruction, as I showed you in that second example. I'm also, though, going to attach a reading by Dr. Ethan Mollick, who is a professor at University of Pennsylvania. I've referenced some of his work in previous episodes. He gives some really helpful notes, I think, on more complex prompting if you're interested in diving in further. For the most part, though, just think about the context that you would be most helpful for the chatbot to have as you're, getting ready to ask for the task. So this could be areas of expertise, your vision, context of where this fits in on a broader work, examples and non-examples. And then after that, again, you focus on the instruction piece of it, step-by-step pieces that are important to you, timing, structural pieces, topics, preferences, etc. Quick tip number 2, prompting, again, as I've said already, it's an iterative process. So you are going to achieve your best results and you're going to get the highest quality outputs if you have a dialogue, a back and forth with the AI chatbot, and you continue to train the chatbot on what you like. So this is most helpful in cases like ChatGPT, where you can actually continue to hold and save your previous conversations. You can't do this with every AI tool, but on ChatGPT you can. And then if you go back to those saved conversations, the AI tool is going to have all of that historical knowledge on like what you talked about before. So that being said, if you go back to the same chat and you've already developed some lesson plans in a way that it knows you liked, based on those same conversations, it's probably already going to know 90% of what to do and your preferences based on the previous things you asked for in that same conversation subject line. So that's a quick tip as to a way you can use these in a longer term way to really accomplish your goals. Tip number 3, depending on which chatbot you use, they can also create images, audio, and video. This can be very helpful depending on the work that you do. I'll link a few of my favorite resources in the show notes that allow you to effectively create images, audio, and video if that's something that is of interest to you. I'm going to leave you with the bonus tip because I realized I said 3 and I actually have 4. But the last tip here, finally, to get started, I think the best way to think about this, if you're still unclear about the role that this can play in your life, is again, think about it as an AI assistant. If you had an intern or an assistant that was supporting you and supporting your work, what are some of those tasks that you could give? I think a great place to start is think about one thing that you really hate doing and then something that you love doing. 2 questions you could ask yourself related to that might be, how could you use your AI assistant to help you reduce the time it takes to proficiently complete some of the things you hate? And then the second question might be, how could you use your AI assistant to help you become even more effective at doing the things you love? So, for my AI enthusiasts who listened, what are some of your favorite tips when developing prompts or using AI tools? I'm going to actually share all of the tips that I continue to receive from this episode in the episode descriptions, as well as the episode blog posts that I continue to publish for each episode as they come in. If you have any other thoughts on today's episode, you can join the conversation at the AI Education Conversation.com or message me on LinkedIn, humans at the heart of AI education. I'll see you next episode.